Hi and welcome. I'm Gordon Anderson and this is Dustin Expo's Speakerbox Conversations. I'm sitting here right now with Mikko Hyppönen. Was that correct pronunciation?
Close.
Close. You're F-Secure's security and privacy expert. And you just held a big seminar about security and things like that. I'm going to try to talk about one specific topic for those minutes we have here. And that is Internet of Things. Most people have probably heard about it, and we can see more and more electronic devices being connected to the internet or your own Wi-Fi. Can this become a security risk in the future?
It has already become a security risk, but it's still small. The way things are going right now, it's quite obvious that this situation isn't getting better, it's getting worse. And the root cause is that when you buy things for your home, smart things for your home, when you buy, something in your kitchen, you're not asking questions about security, you're typically asking questions about price.
Yes. And because as consumers, if we talk about the consumer base, you just want things to work. The lights should go on when my sensor there and things like that. Do the companies the manufacturers, do they think about the security on those products as we don't ask any questions?
Well, they do think about it, but they do realize that the most important selling point for consumer goods is price. And if they invest into better security, it's only going to make the product more expensive than the competitors, and the features they get out of it are the features that nobody's asking for. So we're sort of automatically driving ourselves into a situation where IoT devices and connected devices are insecure.
That seems to be quite a bit of a problem, especially if you start to connect Internet of Things devices at your office, where if they're connected to the same network as your work environment, what can that mean in the future?
In most corporate networks, as well as in most home networks, the IoT devices are the weakest link in the network. So nowadays, when a company gets breached, it's not atypical at all that the attacker got in through a security camera, through a coffee machine, through a printer. And this is something which will happen to our home users as well. Eventually, there will be, for example, ransom Trojan outbreaks. You will wake up one morning to realize that all of the computers in your home have been encrypted by a ransom Trojan, and the ransom Trojan got in through your smart doorbell.
That seems a bit scary, I would say. But how can I protect myself already today? If you say that the security nowadays isn't that good in the products, and as we are not asking for it, the manufacturers aren't really thinking about it, how can I protect myself if I still want a smart office or a smart home?
Well, we should be demanding better security from the vendors, and then they will, of course, answer the demand. In the short while, like right now, today, what you can do is to actually make sure that you configure your IoT devices correctly. Many of the vulnerabilities in these devices could be bypassed by making sure that the systems are configured correctly. So, for example, you segment your home network so that you have a separate Wi-Fi for home devices like connected devices, and then a separate network for computers. That would make them much, much more safer. And then do basic stuff like make sure that your default passwords are changed on your devices.
So you're not a big fan of just putting up there and, now the lights work, so let's continue.
Yeah,
because it works.
That's the problem. People buy it, they turn it on. If it works, they don't read the manual, they don't configure anything. And we've actually been building a solution ourselves. We actually have a box from F-Secure nowadays you can buy and put into your home network, which will create a separate secure Wi-Fi network just for connected devices. But it's still a long way to go before we have secure networks in every home.
Yeah, because that seems like an amazing product. I would buy it immediately if I knew that there was security risks with, but then we need to start to educate people maybe that.
I think what it's going to need is some kind of a wake-up call. We will need some massively large outbreak of some IoT using worm or something which will hit real people and make them really see what the problem is. That's what we need before people wake up and realize the real truth in IoT security.
But is there any category of IoT product you see are more vulnerable than others, or?
Well, I can name vendors which have done better work than others. I mean, one example I've used is IKEA. And since we are here in Sweden, IKEA is a great example. When you think about IKEA, you don't really think about IoT, but they actually have IoT devices like the Droid-free lights, which are...
I have them at
Yep,
home.
yep, and they're actually great examples of secure IoT. When you think about IoT and IKEA, it seems sort of surprising that they would have better security than most other vendors. That's actually a fact. They've put a lot of effort and they've invested a lot into making their connected devices secure by default. And I think the reason why they've done it is that the IKEA business model is such that you build one product and then you sell it for a very long time all over the world. And the worst thing that could happen to you is a product recall. So whatever you ship, make sure you never have to recall it, which means you must not have security vulnerabilities in them. And if that's your business model, then it makes perfect sense for them to do this.
I would say the same. That seems like the correct business plan to do if they are going to sell them all over. I'm pretty glad that you're saying this, as I have the Droid-free at home.
Yeah, they're great lights.
Yeah, because I'm a big proponent, like, people should have smart homes.
Mm-hmm.
But what you're saying is actually scaring me quite a bit, especially as I also would say I want a smart office.
Mm-hmm.
But would you say it's smarter to wait a couple of years before trying to bring this into, if you work with critical data and things?
Well, I'm not against technology at all. I'm not against development or digitalization at all. This revolution will happen anyway. So I'm not saying you should delay. What I'm saying is that you have to do your homework. You have to make sure that what you are buying, installing, and configuring today is done securely. It's easy to go wrong with these new technologies and end up having an insecure network as an end result. But these systems can be used securely if you just do the work.
So, going back to what you told me about having a secure network at the side for the IoT products, do you have any other tips for the future, for those who want to become smart with Internet of Things thing?
Well, I think the real revolution in IoT hasn't even started yet. Because right now, when you speak about connected devices, you speak about smart devices. And I think the real revolution is when stupid devices go online as well. I mean, the things that don't really need internet from the consumer's point of view, like a toaster. Like, you don't need an app for toaster.
You sure?
But I'm quite sure I don't. I think it's not a bad idea to have a smart fridge. It's actually kind of neat that you're in a shop and you wonder how much milk you have in your fridge, and you can just look because your fridge has a camera inside and it's on the internet, so you can actually look inside your fridge from the shop, which is handy. But toasters clearly don't need internet for anything for the consumer. However, it's a different story for the manufacturers. They definitely would like to put all of their toasters on the internet so they could collect data. They would know where their customers are. And this isn't happening yet because it's still too expensive to do it. But as you know, technology prices plummet and eventually they can. And this is the real revolution. Eventually,
when the ships get cheap enough to put in everything.
And then everything will be online. And that's the real IoT revolution.
Thank you very much, Mikko. I think we'll end this there with those very wise words.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us.